You've got to be kidding me. After everything they've been through together, after dismantling everyone in their path, after forming what we thought was the most dominant alliance in WWE today, Bron Breakker just drove a knife straight through Bronson Reed's back on Monday Night Raw. And I'm sitting here, absolutely furious, because this betrayal might be the single most calculated, most cold-blooded, most disrespectful backstabbing we've seen in years. Hit that like button right now if you're as disgusted as I am, and smash subscribe because we need to talk about how Bron Breakker just became the most hated man in WWE. Let me paint you a picture of what went down, because if you missed Raw, you missed witnessing a friendship, no, a brotherhood get absolutely destroyed in the most vicious way possible. Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker weren't just tag team partners, they were an unstoppable force. Two absolute monsters who complemented each other perfectly. Reed with his tsunami splash, his raw power, his ability to crush anyone under 300 pounds of pure dominance. And Breakker? The second-generation superstar, the genetic freak, the man who brought intensity and that Steiner family violence that runs through his veins. Together, they were untouchable. For months, these two have been running through the Raw roster like a buzzsaw through butter. They took out the Street Profits. They demolished the New Day. They made Judgment Day look like absolute rookies. Every single team that stepped up to them got put down, and they did it with a level of brutality that made everyone else in that locker room think twice about challenging them. They had championship gold in their sights, and nobody, and I mean nobody, could stop them. But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Here's where my blood starts boiling. Last week, Bronson Reed took a beating. Not just any beating, a vicious assault from Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn that left him lying in the middle of that ring, barely able to move. And where was Bron Breakker? Where was his so-called brother? His partner? The man who swore they'd always have each other's backs? He was nowhere to be found. Convenient, right? Real convenient that Breakker just happened to be dealing with something backstage when Reed was getting his skull kicked in by two of Raw's top stars. Now, we gave Breakker the benefit of the doubt. We said, okay, maybe he really was tied up. Maybe there's a legitimate explanation. Reed himself loyal to a fault defended Breakker. He went on social media, he cut promos saying they were still solid, that nothing could break their bond. The man took a beating and still had his partner's back. That's loyalty. That's what being a real teammate looks like. And how does Bron Breakker repay that loyalty? How does he thank the man who stood by him through everything? Monday Night Raw, Detroit, Michigan. The crowd is electric. Bronson Reed is scheduled to face Damian Priest in what everyone knows is going to be an absolute war. Reed comes out, and you can see it in his eyes, he's still hurting from last week, but he's ready to fight. That's the kind of warrior Bronson Reed is. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't back down. He steps into that ring ready to prove why he and Breakker are the most dangerous duo in WWE. The match is brutal. Priest is hitting Reed with everything south of heaven, attempts, spinning kicks, the works. Reed is fighting back with chops that sound like gunshots echoing through the arena. These two are absolutely destroying each other, and the crowd is on their feet because they're witnessing a potential match of the year candidate. Reed hits a massive powerbomb. Priest kicks out at 2. Priest hits a razor's edge. Reed kicks out at 2. Back and forth, and you can feel that both men are giving everything they have. Then, the moment we've all been waiting for, Bron Breakker's music hits. The crowd erupts because they think the cavalry has arrived. They think Breakker is coming out to even the odds, maybe to prevent any potential interference, to have his partners back the way Reed has always had his. Breakker marches down that ramp with purpose, and Reed, loyal, trusting Reed, actually smiles. He nods at his partner like, yeah, we got this. We're in this together. Priest is distracted. The referee is trying to keep Breakker out of the ring. Reed is catching his breath in the corner, probably thinking about how they're going to celebrate another victory together. And that's when it happens. That's when Bron Breakker shows his true colors. Breakker slides into the ring, and instead of going after Priest, instead of helping his partner, instead of showing even an ounce of loyalty, he turns and spears Bronson Reed with such force that I thought Reed was going to go through the mat. The gasp from that crowd. The absolute shock on everyone's faces. Reed is laid out, completely blindsided, staring up at the lights, and you can see the betrayal in his eyes. The confusion. The hurt. This is a man who took bullets for Bron Breakker, who defended him when everyone else questioned where he was last week, who believed in their partnership. And Breakker just threw it all away in one devastating spear. But it doesn't end there. Oh no, Breakker isn't done. He picks Reed up, his former partner, his former brother, and hits him with another spear. Then another. 3 spears. Reed isn't moving. Medical staff is rushing to the ring. Priest picks up the easiest victory of his career while Breakker stands over Reed's broken body with this sick smile on his face like he just accomplished something great. And here's what makes me absolutely livid: Breakker grabs a microphone. He stands over Bronson Reed's unconscious body and has the audacity to say that Reed was holding him back, that he was always the star of the team, that Reed was just the muscle, the sidekick, the dead weight that Breakker had to carry. Can you believe the disrespect? Can you believe the absolute nerve of this man to say that Reed, the man who stood by him, who complimented his every move, who made that team work, was holding him back? Comment below right now and tell me how you feel about Bron Breakker after this. Are you as disgusted as I am? Do you think Reed deserves revenge? And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we're going to be covering every single development in this story as it unfolds. Let me break down why this betrayal is even more significant than what we saw on the surface. Bron Breakker is a second-generation superstar. His family legacy, the Steiner brothers, Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, is built on loyalty, on family, on having your partner's back no matter what. And Bron just spit on that legacy. He disrespected everything his family name stands for. The Steiners were known as one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling history precisely because they had each other's backs. And Bron just proved he's nothing like them. This also exposes something we've suspected about Bron Breakker for a while now: he's always been about himself. Think back to NXT. Think about how he carried himself as champion. It was always Bron Breakker, Bron Breakker, Bron Breakker. When he teamed with Reed, we thought maybe he'd matured, maybe he'd learned the value of partnership. But no. He was just using Reed. He was using Reed's power, Reed's dominance, Reed's loyalty to build himself up, and the second he thought he didn't need Reed anymore, he threw him away like trash. And let's talk about the timing of this betrayal. Reed is still recovering from last week's attack. Breakker waited until his partner was vulnerable, until he was already hurt, until he was in the middle of a match giving everything he had left. That's not just betrayal, that's cowardice. A real man, a real competitor, if he has a problem with his partner, he looks him in the eye and tells him. He doesn't attack him from behind when he's already down. He doesn't kick a man when he's at his lowest. The WWE universe is divided right now, and I need you to sound off in the comments. Some people are saying Breakker is just doing what he needs to do to get to the top, that this is the wrestling business and loyalty doesn't get you championships. But I'm calling bull on that. This isn't about business, this is about character. This is about what kind of man you are. And Bron Breakker just showed us he's the kind of man who will stab his best friend in the back for a chance at singles glory. Now, let's talk about what's next, because this story is far from over. Bronson Reed is not the kind of man who's going to take this lying down. Once he recovers, and he will recover, he's coming for Bron Breakker with a level of violence we haven't seen from him yet. We've seen Reed be dominant. We've seen him be powerful. But we haven't seen him be vengeful. We haven't seen him with that fire of betrayal burning in his eyes. And when Reed gets his hands on Breakker, it's going to be ugly. I'm predicting we're going to see one of the most personal, most brutal feuds in recent WWE history. These two know each other inside and out. They know each other's weaknesses, their fears, their fighting styles. When former partners collide with this much animosity, with this much bad blood, we get classic matches. Think of Seth Rollins turning on the Shield. Think of Shawn Michaels superkicking Marty Jannetty through the barber shop window. This has that same energy, that same potential to become legendary. And here's another angle WWE needs to explore: what does this mean for the tag team division on Raw? Breakker and Reed were the measuring stick. They were the team everyone wanted to beat. Now that they've imploded in the most spectacular fashion, we've got a power vacuum. The Street Profits are licking their chops. New Day is ready to step up. Even teams from SmackDown might be eyeing opportunities. The entire landscape of Raw's tag division just got flipped upside down. But beyond the wrestling implications, let's talk about the message this sends. Bron Breakker just told every single person in that locker room that he can't be trusted. No one is going to want to team with him now. No one is going to want to turn their back on him. He's isolated himself, made himself a target for everyone. Sure, he might think he's ready for singles competition, but he's going to have to watch his back every single night because karma is real in WWE. I also want to address something I'm seeing online: people defending Breakker, saying Reed was indeed holding him back, that Breakker has more potential as a single star. And you know what? Maybe that's true. Maybe Breakker does have incredible singles potential. But that doesn't justify what he did. There's a right way and a wrong way to end a partnership. You have an honest conversation. You go your separate ways with respect. You don't assault your partner when he's already beaten down. You don't humiliate him in front of the world. The WWE locker room has to be buzzing right now. You know, guys like CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, they're watching this and they've got opinions. Some might respect the ruthlessness. Others might be disgusted. But everyone is going to remember what Bron Breakker did, and actions have consequences in WWE. Here's my prediction for the next few weeks. Drop a comment if you agree or if you think I'm completely wrong. I think we're going to see Reed come back with a vengeance. I think we're going to see Breakker running his mouth about being a better singles competitor. They're going to build to a massive match, probably at a big premium live event. And that match is going to be violent. No disqualification. No count-outs. Just two former brothers trying to destroy each other. And you know what makes this even better from a storytelling perspective? Both of these guys are heels at heart. Neither one is a traditional babyface. So we're going to get to see two bad guys who hate each other, and the WWE Universe gets to pick who they hate less. That's some complex storytelling right there. That's the kind of nuance that makes WWE great when they get it right. Make sure you like this video if you want to see Bronson Reed get his revenge. Make sure you're subscribed because we're going to cover every moment of this feud. And hit that notification bell because when Reed finally gets his hands on Breakker, you're going to want to know immediately. The fallout from this is going to be massive. Social media is already exploding. The WWE Universe is divided. And Raw next week is going to have record viewership because everyone wants to see what happens next. This is the kind of moment that defines careers, that creates stars, that people remember years from now. Bron Breakker made his choice. He chose ambition over loyalty. He chose singles glory over brotherhood. He chose to become the villain. And now he's going to have to live with the consequences of those choices. Because in WWE, what goes around comes around, and Bronson Reed is going to make sure that Bron Breakker pays for what he did. This is the biggest story on Raw right now. Forget everything else. This is what everyone is going to be talking about. And I want to hear from you. Team Bronson Reed or Team Bron Breakker? Drop your comments now. Let's get this video to 10,000 likes. Let's show WWE that we're invested in this storyline. Watch until the very end and make sure you're part of this conversation because WWE Reporter is your source for the most intense, most passionate wrestling coverage on YouTube. The alliance is destroyed. The war has just begun. And we're going to be here for every single moment.